All right, to be able to refer to. So if you come regularly to Release and Restore, it's not necessarily that we're going to be doing anything new today. It's just we get a whole hour. So we're going to kind of do our best to work from our feet all the way up to come into our shoulders and neck. We'll see if we get to our hands and face. We may not have enough time for all of that. But welcome everyone. So we'll start at the bottom of our body with our feet. If you are new to Release and Restore, oh my goodness, you are gonna feel so good after the end of this class. So a couple of options starting with our feet, since everybody kind of has maybe different equipment. If you've got a ball, we're gonna stand up and roll with the ball, or, just like you would do in barefoot massage. If you would like to just kind of take your hands and start to massage and work around your feet, that is also an option. So you can do both, you can do either or. Bring your ball, stand it up. Feel free to go by a wall so you can hold on, and you can do this in a chair. We're just gonna start to roll out our feet. So we'll spend a few minutes, 2-3 minutes on each foot, or you're using your hands, just kind of massaging. So what's gonna be great about this versus say just our regular Release and Restore is our body is all interconnected. So rolling our feet helps things in our shoulders, rolling our hips helps things in our calves. And so since we have a full hour that we can kind of work our way pretty much through our whole body, right, we're going to get that kind of interaction. Whereas in our normal Release and Restore, we kind of concentrate on one area of the body each week, or, a few areas. Welcome, Tracy. Welcome, Darlene. Welcome, Darlene M and Darlene S. Welcome, Amy B, Lorraine. Welcome, everyone. So again, as you're coming in, we're either rolling our foot on the ball, which I just absolutely love, or using your hands and giving yourself a little foot massage. And with the ball, you can work on really kind of pushing in, applying that deep pressure, or you can stay a little lighter, rolling. And then maybe a little back and forth, a little bit of deep pressure. So hands versus say ball, right? The ball's not going to really get into our toes like we can with our hands. So it's, there's a place for both. That's why I have a variety of massage tools that I use. And we'll do a variety today, but just, use what you have. All right, let's take a few more seconds on this foot. What I love after rolling the foot, if you have not done this before, in just a moment, when we stand on both of our feet, you're gonna feel such an amazing difference. And even just this couple of minutes of rolling your foot, how much lighter this foot will feel when we compare the 2 feet together. Nice. So right there, if you wanna take a moment and just kind of stand on both feet for a second, and feel that difference, and even just like a couple of minutes of work, right? And then we'll switch over to the other foot. So we're going to move, anywhere from say 3 to 5 minutes kind of per body part, per place, just so we can kind of work through the whole body. But you can spend, 10-ish minutes per kind of area. So you can spend 10 minutes on each foot. You can spend 10 minutes on each calf. And that's just kind of a general rule of thumb. You can go a little less, you can go a little more. It's not, but 10 minutes is kind of a nice general rule per area. So like I said, we're just going to kind of move through, 3 to 5 minutes per area. So at any place that we come through, if you're like, oh, I want to stay there a little longer, like I need to just stay on my feet longer, feel free, right? Stick with it. You don't have to move at the same pace as me, right? And maybe, maybe you get to your glutes and you're like, oh, I need like 10 minutes per glute. Then just take it, right? I am recording this, and so I'm not sure how it will be used, but you can always come back to it. Or if you, Sundays, Release and Restore, we go a little slower through the body parts. Welcome, Maria. And then again, maybe applying some of that extra pressure, pushing it. I like to push and twist. This really kind of digs up into the plantar fascia. If you look down at your feet, you can just see the spreading of those long metatarsal bones, right? And we want to do that because especially if you have to wear like dress shoes, nice shoes, right? Our feet just get so squeezed together. And our bodies weren't necessarily designed to be put into fancy closed-toed shoes, right? We were designed, our bodies were made to, just be barefoot. And so this just really brings some of that opening in. There you are, Jen, you made it in. Welcome, Casey. So we're on our second foot if you're just coming in, but as I said, feel free to kind of, lag a little behind, be a step behind if you like. We're just going to kind of work our way up from feet to head. I'll show you options to use different pieces of equipment. I'll show you options to use the floor, the wall, your hands. And so you can just kind of play around with what works best. So right here on your feet, you're more than welcome to be massaging your feet with your hands. We're all going to join you down there in just a moment so we can get into our toes a little bit. Because the ball, you can bring the ball under your toes, but it's not really like a deep massage. All right, so if you're loving this roll, feel free, stay here. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and come down and use our hands a little bit to get into our toes. So just choose, one foot, and let's take a couple of minutes to give our toes a little love. So the toes, I'm not an acupuncturist, I'm not a reflexologist, but just in, just general reading of it. Toes are connected to the sinuses. So if you're having like some sinus issues, really kind of getting in and massaging your toes supposedly does help with that. Since I'm not studied in it, I won't say it does or doesn't. I'll just say, research kind of does lead to there being some benefits. And then maybe coming down in between each toe. So you can like take one finger at a time, or if you want to work on spreading the toes apart, take 4 fingers and kind of really press down into the bed of the toe. So I did go to a training where we did some feet work, and it was with somebody with reflexology background, and she did say that it does. And I know people that they've done it, they've massaged their toes, they've done reflexology, and it does help. But either way, it feels pretty good, right? And then we'll maybe just kind of finish up with this foot with just a nice little rub. Just really letting all that heat come down into our foot. And then let's give the other side, our toes, some attention. So if I were going to personally spend extra time on a certain part of my body, feet would be one I would recommend, right? Because our feet take a lot. And then I would spend extra time wherever I'm feeling issues. So for me, it would be my head, neck, and shoulder, or like my neck and shoulder area. But feet are awesome to spend a little extra time on. And then just wherever you kind of feel issues. So as we're working through today, if we come to an area where you're like, oh, I don't really feel like I need to massage here, you have some options, right? It's definitely not going to hurt because remember, our body's all interconnected. Or you can go to an area, you can go like back to your feet, or you can go back to an area that we've come to and just give it a little more attention. So I want this class to be informational, but also just good for your body. All right, so coming down in between the toes, maybe if you haven't, spread them out a little bit. If you can fit a finger between each one, you might notice one foot's a little tighter than the other. If you've ever broken any toes, broken any of your metatarsal bones, right, you can have a lot more tightness, more stiffness. Yeah. And then also I see, Arlene, she comes to release and restore using like a gua sha tool or a wrench, which is, just a substitute for a gua sha tool. Scraping action of your feet can feel really good. We won't spend a lot of time with that today, just so that we can get through our body parts, but just like to point that out. And then maybe a little once over. Just warming your foot up. We're going to just kind of travel up, hitting the bigger area. So you could spend time on your ankles as well, but we're going to just kind of come up into our calves. So we're just kind of hitting our bigger areas today. So different ways for calves. Stick rollers work really great for calves. So it's totally fine if you don't have one. I'm going to show you other options, but if you have a stick roller, I love a stick roller for calves. Thumbs work really well for calves. Or single ball or double. We can bring the ball under the calf and work it here. You can try some of these different ways and then just stick with what you like best. And then my other that I really love is to take 2 balls in a bag or a sock and then just kind of bring it between the calf and the hamstring and set into it and get a little side to side here. So I like this position because you get a little bonus hamstring as well. You're going to mostly feel your calves, but your hamstrings are getting some massage with that too. We will get hamstrings in a bit, but I like this because I get a little bonus hamstring here. Nice. I gotta switch to a different set of balls. So if you, and I'll just talk to you for a minute while you're massaging, just to give you information about the balls. So my favorite brand, and I know it's probably because I went through all the training with her, but I have tried other brands and I just love these. So the ones that we list with this class, it's the roll model balls. They have them on Amazon, and she has 3 different sizes. So she has a bigger size, and then the medium, which is the one we kind of list, and because it's the most versatile. So if you're going to get just one size, the medium size is like the best size to get. And then she has a smaller size. So I tend to only use the smaller ones with my hands or my feet. It's a little more intense. The smaller you go, the more intense it gets. I tend to use the big ones a lot with my quads, my glutes. So just to let you know, there are different sizes out there. And there's different brands. There's lots and lots of different brands. So don't feel like you have to, go with this brand. I went through the training and I've tried some of the different balls and it's just my favorite, but we're all different and our bodies are different. So you might find a brand you like better. So if you're sitting kind of in this position here, just move the ball occasionally, so that you kind of travels up and down your calf. In certain places, I feel it a little more in my hamstring, and in other places, I feel it a little more in my calf. And then just try some of the different positions as well. Try the stick roller, try using your thumbs. So our hand, we can massage most of our body with our hands. It's hard to get into your back, right? So that's when the balls come in really handy. But what I like about the balls versus my hand is, one, if I'm using my hands get crampy, right? Then my hands start hurting. And then also I can get a little deeper massage with the balls than I can with my hands. Nice. But I love a stick roller on the calves as well. I don't use a foam roller a lot just because it's so big and bulky, but you can use a foam roller as well. If you're ready, we can kind of switch to the other calf. Again, remembering you could spend 10 minutes per calf, right? And we do a little more of that. If you come on Sunday, we do spend a little bit longer, but we only cover. So if we were covering feet, which is where we will be this Sunday, we would do feet, calves, and shins. So lower legs only in that 30-minute class. So if I did that in here, we'd only get like half our body done. And I do want to make it a little bit into your upper body as well. So today's more of a little bit of a shorter per position, but we'll get to cover pretty much the whole body. But again, feel free to stay on the calves longer. So when we move on somewhere else, feel free to stay where you are. Another technique, if you are in this position, so we're already kind of smashing, but I can add a little bit more of a smash by applying a weight onto the top of my quad. So that just gives me a deeper tissue massage, right? So I can put more pressure, deeper massage. But don't force, right? Don't hurt yourself. If it's like, oh my gosh, that's like a 10. Oh, right. You want to try to, back off a little bit on a 1 out of 10. So we're trying to kind of, feel 5, 6, 7, 8, right? 6, 7, 8, kind of on a scale of 1 to 10 in the sensations that we feel. If we're feeling 9s or 10s, we probably want to change position or move a little above, move a little below. And then we're trying to get the area to go from, say, 6, 7, 8 down to like a 2, 3, 4, on kind of the sensation scale as we loosen up. Now, if you go to somebody that massages, yeah, the hurt that feels so good, right? Like, is the hurt so good is kind of that 7 or 8. I mean, there's that place where it's like, there is no hurt so good. It just hurts. And sometimes if you go into a professional, right, who's, trained in deep tissue massage, like they take you sometimes to those 9 or 10s. But I don't want you to do that to yourself. There's plenty of good work we can get done in that 6, 7, 8 range. Nice. So again, if you're loving kind of the back of your calves, feel free to stay there. Otherwise, we'll take a little bit of time coming into our shin on the front. So typically what I do with my shin is I either use my thumbs or a stick roller, or maybe like a gua sha tool. You can use the ball, and I will show you how to do that. It just personally, it feels a little awkward to me. But what I normally do is I would take one ball, you come into like kind of a half butterfly position, bring the ball underneath the shin, and you can massage up and down it here. And it works really well. I mean, I do like it. It's just sometimes feels a little uncomfortable to set this way. And as I'm doing my shin, I can also kind of come into what's our posterior tibia. So we got our anterior tibialis, which is where we are on the outside, and then posterior tibialis is kind of underneath the shin bone. So you can kind of take a thumb, just kind of work your thumb underneath the shin bone. And we'll just spend maybe a minute or so here. And of course, you can spend longer, but just kind of get you through. I don't want to rush anybody, but I do want to get you through, big areas of your body. The one area I find a lot that I'm tight on is just below the knee. So our IT band comes down and attaches kind of right down here into the lower notch of the knee. So a lot of times right up in here, there's quite a bit of tenderness. You can get all acrobatic here and apply pressure from the top as well. So if you can come Sunday, we'll be spending the whole 30 minutes, which will be about 10 minutes more than we've spent on this area today. And then if you'd like to come over to the other shin, again, with the thumbs or the ball. Or a stick roller. Spend about a minute or so here on this leg. So there's different techniques. So gua sha tools work best on skin. So if you had, leggings on, and it also works best if you put a little lotion or oil, and then you just kind of get this scraping. And the gua sha, or the Graston method, you can look up Graston method as well. Gua sha is kind of ancient, been doing it forever. Graston kind of came along, developed this really high-tech tool, which looks about like a wrench. So that's why I use a wrench. And you get more of kind of the surface layers. So if you could, kind of grab your skin, right? We have these surface layers of fascia. And then we have down into the muscle layers, so all that deeper fascia. The gua sha Graston works really well on more of the surface layers. And so that's just another technique. All right, my friends, let's move on. And of course, you can stick with your lower body if you like. Otherwise, we're going to come up into our kind of quads, inner, outer thighs. Many options here. Again, stick rollers work really well. Thumbs, hands, elbows. I love to use my elbows. So if you've got that flexibility, right, you can use your elbow. I love to use my elbow right into my inner thigh here. Ah. It hurts so good right there, right? So hands, elbows, stick rollers. If I do use a foam roller, I oftentimes use it on my quads, inner, outer thighs. So I do like a foam roller for that. Or I tend to use the bigger set of balls, but the smaller works as well. And I do the 2 in a bag, a sack, a sock, and I lay on it the same way I would a foam roller. So you would kind of come onto the foam roller or the balls and just rolling here. So you can kind of play around, see what you like best. I tend to do all of it, you know, just depending on the day, the time. And when I am rolling, so you can see here, I'm kind of directly on the quads, right? The top of the leg. I can roll a little to the side. I can roll a lot to the side. Your IT band runs down the side of that leg. Sometimes it's pretty sensitive. So rolling directly onto the side may be too intense for you, more than you want. So you can kind of roll in between. And then to get the inner thigh, I just kind of come on the opposite leg. I make a little adjustment. I usually bend my knee a little bit. And I roll in and out here. So you get all those different places to be. Stick roller, elbows, hands. You could even take a ball and use kind of in place of your hand or your elbow. So you can hold on to the ball. The other thing we want to think about, we didn't do it as much on the lower part of our body because it was smaller areas, but we want to move in all different directions. So we want to move with the direction of the muscle, right? And then we want to move across the muscle. So it would become more like this side or this shimmy, right? So I move my body across it. And then our legs are a little bit smaller area in the glutes, especially when we get there. Circular motions. So we did do some circular motions on our feet as well. So we want to take, what we're doing is trying to take all those different layers of muscles, right? We're moving them all around and over each other, and they start to loosen up. So if you think about the example I always use is juicing a lemon, right? If we want to squeeze the lemon and get juice out of it, it's easier if you kind of massage it around on the cabinet first. And we're not going to juice our leg, but we're trying to get that juice, the fluid, to come in. And when everything's really tight, blood supply can't move in, lymphatic can't bring stuff out, nutrients can't come in and out. So the massaging loosens all of that up for us. So today we'll spend about 5 minutes on each leg. But again, in an area like we're covering today with our legs, because you kind of have the front of the thigh, the outer thigh, the inner thigh. I mean, you could spend 20 minutes or so per leg. I wouldn't want to stay, I don't want to choose one spot. Like I don't want to choose this inner thigh right here that's really tight and go, oh man, I'm going to just dig in right here for 20 minutes. Because it's too much isolated in one spot. So I may spend, you know, I could spend 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 minutes per one spot like this, if it's a really tight area. But kind of rule of thumb in one direct spot, really, you know, 2, 3 minutes. But because this is a huge, you know, amount of area we're covering, we're spending about 5 minutes on it, which is nice to get some loosening happening. You're going to get some benefit in 5 minutes, but you could spend, you know, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here. So you could spend, you know, more time. So I don't want anybody to think, you know, I want you to kind of feel out. We don't ever want to stay too long, even if we're like, oh, but it's still tight, it needs to loosen. You want to work it and then you want to take a break from it, right? And then maybe even come back. Maybe if, you know, if I was really tight here in my inner thigh, maybe I work it for 5 minutes in the morning and maybe I come back to it 5 minutes in the evening. But we want to give our body time, you know, to heal on its own. So we activate it, we bring the blood supply in, you know, we work it, and then we let it rest. Icing after you massage can also be very beneficial if you do have, you know, kind of a super tight, painful, injured area. But always, if you know of an injury, you know, just make sure, run it by your doctor. And then we'll just kind of start to switch to the second leg. So rolling, you know, kind of on your own, it's preventative. It's going to help us not get as tight. It's great to do after you work out, you know, just kind of maintenance. It can be very beneficial for injuries, but it's always best, you know, just if you do have an injury, check with your doctor. If you have some types of autoimmune issues like fibromyalgia, it can be really good for that, but it also can be a little contraindicated. So if you have any type of, you know, medical things, it's always best to just make sure, you know, run it by your doctor. Say, oh, I hear about this rolling, you know, is it okay to roll? And that sort of thing. You know, anything that's good, there's always a chance that maybe it's not good for a certain reason. Nice. So we did switch to the other side. I kind of put that in between saying a bunch of other stuff. So if you haven't switched legs, go ahead and switch legs. I'm just trying to give lots of little safety tips too while we're rolling. You'll also notice, you know, one side of your body usually is tighter than the other. So spend a little more time on the tighter areas. Because if you come to class, I try to kind of even it out. I somewhat watch a clock. But you can always, my advice would be like, you know, if your left side's just always tighter, spend 6 minutes on your left and 4 minutes on your right, sort of thing. You know, give the tight side a little more attention. Just your little one is so cute, Allie. just right there by you, getting some mama love while mama's getting some massages. Yeah, thanks, Amy. So I know Amy does have some experience with that, with like autoimmune. A lot of times if you're having an autoimmune flare, not a good time to roll like in the middle of a flare. But can be beneficial when you're not in a flare. Yeah. And Amy has actually spoken with the doctor about that. So, yeah, so I just always like to point that out. I mean, you know, if you're basically feeling good and healthy and things are good, I mean, rolling is going to be pretty beneficial, but there are times if you're in the middle of an acute injury, you know, the injury just happened, not the best time to pull out and roll, right? We want to rest, we want to ice first, you know, let the healing happen, and then kind of in the recovery process, do some of the rolling. Okay, so I'll spend another minute or two on this leg, and then we'll move into our glutes and our hams. We'll get our back and our chest for sure. I want to get into the neck a little bit. We may run out of time to come out into the arms. I'll try to at least kind of talk you through it while you're rolling some different areas so you know a little bit. But again, if you can come on Sunday nights, release and restore. We take usually it's about 4 weeks to go from toes to head. So if you look at that, that's like a 2-hour time period, and we're spending an hour today. So we are having to kind of move a little bit more quickly through pieces, but we're getting kind of a nice whole body. So there's different ways, you know, if you've got areas of your body that are tight, maybe you roll those daily, you know, maybe once a week, you set out aside time to kind of do a whole body. There's not a right or wrong way to do this. Just find what works for you. If the only time you can do it Sunday for 30 minutes, Sunday for 30 minutes is better than no minutes, right? So just work in what works for you. I always tell people keep the balls where you'll see them though. You know, so like if you have a favorite TV show you watch every week, or you're on the floor playing with your kids, or you know, whatever it may be, if you got the balls where you can see them, even 5 minutes here and there makes a big difference. So I actually have these all over my house. I have them like everywhere so that I see them and I will use them. And I'm always trying to get my kids to do it as well, because they're, you know, they're teenagers and athletes. So they need to do this. My 14-year-old, he's gotten a little more into rolling because he's starting to realize how beneficial it is. My 16-year-old, she's like, no, just do it for me. Rub my back. I don't want to roll. I'm like, you're lazy. Nice. All right, so you can continue with your quads, but just kind of for the sake of moving through our body, we're going to move on up into hamstrings and glutes. With hamstrings, again, I'll show you some different ways. So a stick roller can work really well for the hamstrings. Hamstrings are a little hard to use the hands. I mean, you can, but you can't, like it's hard to just kind of get in there. What we want to try not to do for the hamstrings though, is roll the hamstrings with the leg out extended, because that actually puts the hamstring in a little bit of a stretched position. It's best to roll the hamstring with the knee bent. So what I do if I'm going to use a ball is a bench or a chair of any sort, sit on it, bring the ball under the hamstring so that my knee stays a little bit bent. That's just a safer way to massage the hamstring. So if you're like, I don't have a chair nearby, I don't want to go get one, you know, whatever, then while we're working hamstrings, you could come into your glutes, spend a little more time in your glutes, or you could go back to your quads. So our glutes, kind of same thing, we'll just sit on the ball and we're rolling and massaging around here. Nice. So we'll kind of just combo the glutes and hamstrings together. So we're going to do glutes and hamstrings on one leg and then glutes and hamstrings on the other leg. Now, other ways that you can roll the glutes, it's a little harder with the hamstrings, but the glutes work because we can kind of stick our bum out a little bit, is bring the ball onto the glute and press into a wall. So I've got so much junk on the wall here that I can't really do that for you, but just if you wanted to stand up, ball on the glute, press into the wall. It's a little harder because our glutes get in the way. We can't really get our hamstring into the wall. And then again, the hamstring would be straight. So I oftentimes like to use my bigger ball too for the glutes and hamstrings. So completely up to you. And you can do the glutes sitting in the chair too. You don't have to come to the floor for the glutes. So that's why the two go really well together, is you could stay in the chair. But you can do glutes on the floor or the wall. And then I like to put in a little bit of that smash action here too. So I can kind of lean in, applying a little more pressure. Now you can use 2 balls. It's not that you can't. 2 balls is going to be less intense. So usually I just me personally, I need a little deeper massage into the hamstring and the glute. So I go to 1 ball. So kind of the rules of thumb on that are 2 balls is less intense than 1. And the bigger the ball is less intense than the smaller the ball, because it's the smaller is digging into just like 1 spot. Nice. So yeah, if you have like a weight bench in your house, works really well to sit on. Piano bench, a chair. It just doesn't work in like a couch, because then you're just gonna, you know, sink down. Needs to be like, I'm on a little bit of a cushion is fine, you know, but it's firm. It's not gonna sink down. Just to always remind people, it's best to roll the hamstring if the knee is at least slightly bent. It's not that it has to be, you know, 90. Just kind of go back and forth between your hamstring and your glute. So when you're getting into your glutes as well, I'm just going to come back down here so you can see me a little better. Don't forget our outer glute, right? Our gluteus maximus is kind of back here, right? Our gluteus minimus and medius. So I just kind of come onto my side, and a lot of times I just come down to my elbow. Into that side glute. It's like the window into the hip flexor too. So again, glutes are a bigger set of muscles. So you could easily, spend 10 minutes per glute. Oh, and when you feel those little areas that just feel a little more intense, as long as you know it's like about an 8, see if you can just hold into it. Hold and breathe. I'm trying to relax into it as much as you can. Sometimes you'll feel a little bit of a give, but what you'll feel is kind of the intensity of the pain let up a little bit. So that pain goes from like an 8 to a 5 or 4. And then you can move on. So usually anywhere from 20 seconds to 60 seconds holding on one spot. It's a good trigger point release. Nice. And then we'll just kind of switch on over to the other hamstring, the other glute, if you haven't already. Spend a little time on the other side. So I like to, if I know, like if I did a workout, we do those workouts sometimes and we're like, oh, I'm going to be sore tomorrow, right? We've all had that experience where you just know, you're like, that was tough. I'm going to be sore tomorrow. I try to roll within a few hours of the workout. It will help alleviate some of the soreness. It may not take all the soreness away, depending on kind of how hard you worked out. But if you can roll within a couple of hours of what you would consider, any workout, truthfully, but especially those where we go, oh, I'm going to be sore tomorrow, right? It will help with that soreness because it's going to bring the blood supply in so because the soreness is just the muscle breaking down, because then how we get stronger is our body builds back up. So by bringing the blood supply in and the recovery of the rolling, right, it's going to start that recovery process into that area sooner. And if we wait, and then we get kind of stiff because we don't move, then we're more sore the next day. If you wait until the next day to roll, when the soreness is already set in, right, then it's a little harder to roll because it's like, oh, it hurts because we're too sore. So anytime you can roll within a couple of hours after working out is great. And then you can also roll before a workout just to kind of warm up the body. So it's not that you have to always do it after, but after will help with just recovery. So if you come to Mount Pilates, right, you're like, oh, my hips are going to be burning tomorrow. Do a little rolling of the glutes, the quads, hams after class. So while you're rolling glutes here, I'll talk about abs a little bit. We're not necessarily going to roll our abs today. It's a whole different kind of piece of equipment because our abs are more sensitive. So we don't really want to roll our abs in with these really hard balls. Plus, think about it. If you laid on your belly, it's really hard to like lay right. Yeah. When you do the Pilates the day before and you're already sore today, you're probably not loving rolling the glutes. I mean, you can still get some benefit, but it's intense. So with the abs, you can roll your abs, and I will show you what you can use for that. So the roll model that these balls come from, she has a ball called the Coregeous ball. So Coregeous, and you can use it for a lot of different things. Or just those little Pilates balls that you can find, on Amazon, just about anywhere. they work really well. So when you massage, and we won't really do this, I'll just talk while you're rolling your glute. So when you massage your abs, you want something soft, and you would do it just like, you know, any other part of our body. We'd bring the ball underneath the abs, come into it. And then again, you can roll side to side and circular motion. And we don't really do this in Release and Restore. I talk about it every once in a while just so people know. Just because it's kind of, you know, one part of your body, and I figure we aim onto all the other areas of the body. Also, if you just ate, you wouldn't want to massage your abs if you've just eaten. But if you had any kind of abdominal surgery or C-section, this can be really great to loosen up any of that scar tissue in there. And this is also, ladies, really, really awesome for menstrual cramps. So if you have cramps, great to massage on. It doesn't have to be her gorgeous ball, but any type of kind of big Pilates ball is great. So I do want to kind of point that out. All right, my friends, you are welcome to stay with your glutes and hamstrings. So we're going to start making our way up our spine. So you can do your back. Yeah, Amy's going, she was sore too. I'll read your whole message here in a second, Amy. So with our back, we can do 2 balls in a bag or sock. And then we get both sides of the spine at a time. So kind of the space between the balls is what's on the spine. You can do this on a wall or laying down. I'll show you all of that. And then we can just kind of, you know, work our way up and down. Oh, there's some tight spots in there. And then you can also just kind of stay in one area. So maybe I want to stay right here with my lower back. Now, if you want a more intense, and we'll spend about 10 minutes here on our back. Well, maybe about 8, because I do want to get into chest and neck a little bit. If you want a more intense massage, instead of using 1 ball, and again, different sizes, whatever you like, you can use 1 ball instead of 2. And then we're going to work just one side of the spine, and then we would switch and work the other side. That's going to be definitely more intense. Now, if you want to use a wall works really good for the back because we can kind of squat down a little bit, bring the ball, press into the wall, and then right, it's just kind of like these little squat action. You can get all the way up your back. So we're going to spend about 8 minutes or so here. If you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat box. But I could just, you know, I can work the ball up high. I can work the ball in the middle of my back and my low back. Now we're mostly going up and down with the muscle fiber, but remember, we do want to do a little bit of movement in different directions. There's not a lot of movement here in our spine because we don't want to roll on the spine. The spine is one of the places that we definitely don't want to roll on. So, but I could kind of, you know, get a little side to side motion here, a little side to side. Now it is okay to come over the rib cage, but it is a bonier area of our body. So you just want to be careful. You don't want to push in as hard. Same as if you come kind of onto this low back, your iliac crest region. You can roll over that, but again, it's bonier there. So anytime we're rolling over bonier areas, you know, try to take some of your weight off of it. Maybe try a wall so that you're not pushing too hard down into it. I know. Don't you love it? Like when I kind of love and hate at the same time when I've had those workouts where I'm like, oh, I'm going to be so sore. I love it because I know I worked hard. But also I do always like to point out, you know, there is such a thing as too much, right? So we really have to listen to our bodies. I one time went to, and maybe some of you here have done CrossFit, but a lot of my friends, they work in a gym, they're like, let's go to CrossFit, you know? Well, as a fitness instructor, you're like, okay, I gotta do this, right? I can't oh, I can't do it. I pushed myself too hard. I was so sore for like 3 days, and that is not healthy. You actually can, luckily I was totally fine, but your body can, you know, break down. There can be some not good benefits of like pushing too hard. And I was just, it was several years ago, but I was just, you know, I was stupid because I was like, I'm a fitness instructor, by golly, you know, I'm going to do all this. I'm not going to let them see that I can't do it. So do, you know, listen to your body. Now, if you're doing one side of your spine at a time, just kind of switch as you feel. You can go back and forth. I will say on foam rollers. So you can use a foam roller on your back. But what I like to always point out, right, the foam roller, many of them, some of them have little grooves and things in them, but they come straight across your back. So if you lay on the foam roller, what I find, just the way my back is I tend to just end up pressing right on my spine. I'm not really getting into the muscle very well, and it just kind of hurts. So if you do use a foam roller on your back, kind of roll a little bit to one side. So you're kind of getting one side of your spine, and then kind of shift a little bit to the other side. Because if you just lay on it directly, a lot of times that really, our spine will protrude a little bit, and then we're really just rolling up and down the spine, which isn't good for the spine and not really helpful for the back either. So that's what I like about the balls, because if you put them in the bag, you get the little space in between. These balls come in a cute little bag, but you can always use a sock. Socks work great. Now, as we're rolling our back, many of us have this place of kind of at the top of the shoulders, right? That place where we're always reaching up with our hands and massaging. And we can do that, right? We can use our hands to kind of massage up there. The other thing, I'm going to show you two different ways. Single ball or double, doesn't really matter, right? You can do one side or both. If we come up into a glute bridge, I'll hold my hair out of the way. As we bridge up, I can actually get the balls up to there. Now I'll get a deeper massage if I'm using just one ball, so I'll get into one side. Now, if you don't want to hold your bridge, a yoga block works really well, because I can come into the bridge, I can place the yoga block under me, and that holds me up there. Or, I'll see if I can kind of turn my camera and demo on this little shelf, or you can use like a wall. Turn my camera here. See my bookshelf over there. All right, this is not a good sturdy bookshelf, but so I'm just going to kind of demonstrate. The other thing you can do, seated or standing, on your knees or standing, you kind of bring the ball onto the top and you come into the side of like a corner of your wall. And the reason you want a corner is because you want some space for your head to come, because my head needs to go somewhere. And I can roll right into that area. Now, of course, you can use your hands too. And better yet, if you get someone to do it for you, right? Your husband, you're like husband, friend, sister, daughter, right? Oh. But I love, 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 love that. And I usually just do it in a bridge position. So I just kind of bring the ball. I start with it between my shoulder blades, and then I just stick my feet up, or my glutes up in the air. And then I can come right up into the top of that shoulder. One ball gives me more space to kind of move around, so I can get a little deeper massage there. Just roll back down. Remember, pausing anywhere. Flossing our arm is a good thing, right? So we kind of get the ball right up into that shoulder blade, and then I can move my arm. So there are a few areas we're kind of not covering today, just because, like I said, if we covered everything, it really takes about 2 hours to thoroughly cover every single bits of your body. But come on Sundays, anytime you can. And then also don't be afraid to just kind of play around with it a little bit, right? If it doesn't feel right, doesn't feel good, don't do it. All right, we'll spend another couple of minutes on our back, and then I do want to get into our chest and finish with a couple of minutes on our neck. We won't get arms or hands today. I don't know. I tend to be less sore. I mean, I love to massage my hands, and we did that just Sunday and release and restore. We do that about every 4 weeks. But my arms sometimes get sore, but most of the time not as sore as like my shoulders. My shoulders get sore a lot. My glutes get sore. Then I'm always tight in my back. So I carry any tension or stress that exists anywhere in the world likes to ride on my back. This week, I don't know if you all celebrate Easter. So we've been so in COVID. Last year was like no Easter celebrations. Well, here in Texas, things are open back up, and most of our kind of grandparents, extended family are starting to get vaccinated. Oh my gosh, this week has been so stressful trying to plan Easter celebration. I forgot because, we couldn't do anything last year. And so I have a daughter in college, and she's like, I can't come home because I have this cheer thing. And then I have a son that still has, I'm like, oh my goodness. So I think we finally figured it out. From like 5 to 8 p.m. Saturday is the only free time. Grandparents come by, say hi for a minute. So my back has been tight as I've been trying to figure out how we're handling Easter this year. Nice. All right, my friends, you are more than welcome to continue rolling on your back. Otherwise, we're going to spend a little bit of time on our chest and then end with a few minutes on our neck. So chest is a small area. I would recommend one ball, whether it's a bigger ball or a smaller ball. And you have some options here. So you can take the ball and you can, just kind of use it as a little massager. You can also use your fingers. You can lay or come to the wall. So sometimes people don't like to lay down because it can be kind of awkward, especially for women to kind of get into there. But what I do is I take the ball kind of on the chest and I come in from the side, right? So I have some space. My girls aren't very big, so I don't need much space. But I take the arm, the side that I'm rolling, and I just reach it out behind me. And then I can get right into the chest. So I'm going to set up in a minute so you can see kind of what I'm doing down here, but this is the position. So you could do that on a wall as well. So again, I would come to a corner of a wall so my body can kind of hang out. So if I came to the corner, right, can y'all see me? So my body can kind of hang out over here on the side. So that works well. And then the area that I'm getting, we don't want to get into breast tissue. Again, you can massage breast tissue, but I would use the gorgeous ball for that. So I'd go with a softball for that. But into the chest here, and I just try to go kind of different directions. And then a little bit under the armpit there. So where we get that kind of pec minor that comes under. And then this is also where you could then go over the top of the shoulder. You could even go down the arm if you liked, right? We can also come around the back of the shoulder if you wanted to. You could lay on your back and get in the back of the shoulder. And we do all of this when we do this area on Sundays. But I'm just kind of going through it. We're just getting a few minutes on each side today. So we are almost at the end of our hour. So we'll spend a couple of minutes on one side and then a couple of minutes on the other. I said, we did this on Sunday and I was like, this is the area. I don't massage this area as much as I should. And it's simply because it is one of the least comfortable positions to be in my opinion. I don't love laying down here on the floor in this position, but it works. It really does a good job. And we do tend to be tighter through our chest, right? We get that shoulders pulled forward. If you're typing on a phone, we are a society of kind of slouchiness. At least I know I am guilty of that. I'll just take a couple of minutes on the other side. So our shoulder, it is a smaller area. Our chest is a smaller area. So, maybe 2 or 3 minutes here. And then of course you could come out over the arm and, so incorporate that in together, which we just won't really get into too much today. Just a small area we're covering, so just a couple of minutes at a time. You might do it twice a day if you were really tight. And you can, of course, continue to roll here. I do want to, in just about a minute, show you the neck. So when we get into the neck in a minute, you do kind of need a yoga block or a book or two to stack because of the curvature of our neck. You won't really get a massage unless you bring the floor up under your neck. So if you don't have that here with you now, feel free to just keep rolling the chest, the shoulders, or any other area of your body that you like. And I will show you the neck in about a minute. And that way you'll just know it and you can do it later or a different time. Nice. So of course, keep rolling your chest, your shoulders, your back, anything that you would like to, but I do want to show you the neck because it feels really, really good. So 2 balls in a bag, because if you use just one, it's just going to roll away. And then you would take a block or a couple of books and we put the ball up. This way, this is going to take that curvature out of our neck. And then you just come back onto the balls here. And so now the balls press into kind of both sides of the neck. And then you can roll to just one ball. So I can work just my right side of my neck. I'm moving all around on that muscle. I can even come onto the side of my neck a little bit. And then I can roll over and get the left side. Great, so I'm using just one ball here, but I have 2 because if I try to use just one, it rolls away. So 2 in a sock or a bag if you have this brand. And then a lot of times I just lay here and I just rock my head side to side. And you get a little mini Shavasana. You can also, if you had a couple of different sets of balls, you could have one under your neck and then maybe take another set. I would use the bigger ones in this position. But if I'm using the small ones under my neck and I have the bigger ones, I could take the big ones and kind of lay them under my low back. And then I'm getting a little neck massage, a little low back massage. You can kind of play around with that too. We have about 2 or 3 minutes, my friends. I think it's 2 minutes. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in and I'll try to answer them the best I can here. And then feel free to just keep rolling here for these next couple of minutes. Yeah, I know some of you are headed out to sculpt and stretch. Join me in a little bit, shred and stretch at 10 a.m. And you're welcome to stay. We still officially have 90 seconds. So don't rush off if you don't need to, but I know some of you are headed to class, but I'll just hang out here for these next 90 seconds, answering any questions that come in. So hopefully that gave you a decent full body massage. Thank you all so much. I'll see you up later in classes. Yeah, thanks, Mary. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this class too, because I'm like, it's just because it's hard. Rarely are we going to sit down and roll for a massage for an hour, right? We're busy people. So even 5 or 10 minutes at a time is amazing. It all adds up. But this was fun to get to put this extra full hour class on the schedule. So thank you all so much, my friends. I'm going to end the recording. So then if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question, you can